It came about the schedule is just basically we're talking to Guy Godowski and the staff down there, and we got a call, and we basically agreed to play this year at our place first, and then reciprocate and go back to Penn State. And ideally, we wanted to have them come in first and then go to their new place the following year there for 2 games, and we were more than happy to make this work.
And what do you expect from their team? I know in the discussion I had with you last week, their teams put a lot of pucks on net. Our Godowski teams have in the past, a team they're not afraid to shoot the puck. What do you expect? Obviously, it's a team that they've played nine or so games. What do you expect from this team based on what you've seen on tape?
See, a team that does put a lot of shots on net is excellent in transition to offense, and the fact that you're going to see 4 guys in the rush, very similar to I think their days at Princeton. Those are the 2 things that really stick out to me when I see a Guy Godowski type of team, and it's very effective. They won championship at Princeton with it, so I'm sure they're going to keep that formula. I see a team that is tremendously hardworking, and it's always fun to play them. It's like a track meet, and you better be ready to play, or it's not going to be pretty for you.
If you look at their roster, they've got 10 freshmen that came in and 5 transfer students. And if you look at who's leading their team in scoring, it's a lot of their young players. And then you take a look at their schedule. They've played a lot of Atlantic hockey opponents and had some success against them. Are you expecting that type of team, like a good young Atlantic hockey team? I mean, they're independent, obviously, so you can't really compare. But is that the type of team that you're kind of preparing for?
I'm preparing, and our staff is preparing after watching play a couple games here, like we're playing a league opponent, and that's how we're taking this. I'm not taking it any other way, because that's how we take every opponent. So, as far as that's concerned, it's strictly, worry about the first period come Saturday night, first period, but it's we're expecting a tremendously 6th period, could be some overtime games in there, who knows, but it's going to be a battle right from that first puck drop Saturday night.
So you're coming off an idle weekend, as is Penn State. Just talk about some of the things the team's worked on in practice and some of the things that you're looking for the team to improve upon as you head into this week.
Well, this is a tough week for us with exams, in the fact that I'm sure Penn State's not going to cross a river with that, and it's one of those, it's a fine line for coaching staff, because you're trying to find out how much you can do with open ice and how much you can't do. And what we're trying to do is basically try to keep our hands with passing drills and our feet with some conditioning, just to try to keep that in shape, because you don't have very many guys at practice because of exams, so you really can't do specialty teams, and it's tough to do full ice, D-zone, or transition type drills. So trying to prepare, we won't really try to start really preparing for Penn State until Wednesday, when we have everybody, and then we'll work on the things that we need to work on.
Now we're at the quarter pole of the season. Talk about some of the things that you've liked about your team so far, and just individual players maybe that you've been impressed with so far this season.
I would say specialty teams has been, I think, very helpful for us. I think it's won us a couple games, both on power play and shorthand, which has given us tremendous life with a few goals. So those are the things that I really like. Things that we need to work on, I think, are just things that all teams are going through right now. Fine-tuning their defensive zone, transition to offense, transition to defense. A thing that I think is underrated, line changes. Catching teams. It's also a thing that we really need to buckle down on. More of the finer points of the game. Our forecheck can use a lot of work as well. So those are the things that I think we need to work on.
And I know last week's coach's show was something that you mentioned was about this team kind of finding its identity, and obviously last year is something that I think Greg Coburn mentioned. The team found its identity early in the season. Is that something that you think the team is kind of still looking for or kind of building towards?
We made it perfectly clear the next day after the coaches show what type of team that we want to be, and our identity will always be here. And that was basically, don't beat yourselves and be a tremendously hard team to play against. So those two things should cover it. And we don't want to go into 3, 4, 5 because there isn't a 3, 4, and 5. Those are the two, and that's what we're going to have to hang our hat on to be successful here.
Now, just I guess one last thing, just in terms of like individual guys that you've been impressed with so far. Just talk about some of the guys that have impressed so far through the first 9 games of the season.
Well, I'd like to say Kyle Bodie, taking the role of a top center, coming from the third line last year to the first line center this year has been a nice plus. Wayne Simpson is off to a good start as far as his goal scoring. And back on D, I thought Greg Coburn has been our best defenseman, quite honestly, for the 9 games consistently, which has been a really nice surprise. And that really helps you back there, being a senior and also really kind of carrying the mail for us. Shane Gossesbear has had his good games as well. And a couple of freshmen really have picked it up. Sebastian Gingras had a red hot start there. So we're looking for him to fine-tune his game, and I think once these exams are over, guys will start to pick it up there as well.
Great.